This is what happened when Aliyah don't want to screen Caitlin right here. Look at this. Caitlin lands on her knee with Odyssey Sims trailing and grabbing her. Now Caitlin's on the floor grabbing her knee. Thank you, Aliyah. Thank you so much, Aliyah. Look at this. AB didn't screen. So now Odyssey Sims is on top. This is what Draymond Green was trying to tell you, Waffle House. This is exactly what Draymond...
She served up pure softness on the block. And meanwhile, the national television broadcast tried gaslighting 15 million viewers across the country. The announcers actually claimed Sims just slipped and lost her footing, but anybody watching this slow-motion feed can clearly identify a deliberate, high-impact collision. You can plainly see the violent contact, yet the commentary crew immediately pushed that watered-down narrative out over the airwaves to millions of living rooms. Every sports bar and mobile stream tracking this high-stakes showdown between the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings heard that exact same sugar-coated excuse.
They came after Caitlin tonight. She gets flat mugged right here.
Trying to adjust her.
Flat mugged. What are we doing? I mean, yikes! She couldn't get a foul call if her life depended on it. Not tonight, anyway. Not tonight. And then Odyssey Sims, I mean, for real, tackles Caitlin Clark. There's no confusion. She tackled her like it's the National Football League. And look, I like Odyssey Sims. She came through last year for the Fever, but that was
0% incidental contact and 0% slip. That was a veteran perimeter defender deliberately loading up and barreling downhill. Sims sprinted directly into Clark's knees at maximum velocity, locking her arms around her frame to sweep her legs completely out from under her.
And Bueckers. And some intensity growing here as Clark taking...
This locker room is going to completely fracture by mid-season if the front office does not bring in real enforcers to enforce order on the floor. The referee was positioned barely 10 feet away with a crystal-clear line of sight, yet chose to swallow the whistle and ignore blatant contact.
It's trash. She does not set screens. You got people tackling Caitlin Clark. Aliyah Boston, big, soft, sorry ass, don't do nothing. She's a big, soft, sorry piece of if you ask me out there. Aliyah Boston is ass. $6 million of ass juice out there. She ain't did nothing. Got dominated by Jessica Shepard. Aliyah Boston, get your sorry ass in the trash too. Go on, get your sorry ass in the trash. You suck. You the most overrated, overpaid big. For $6 million, you need to be playing like Asia.
There was no whistle on the play, just dead silence followed by the heavy impact of a body violently crashing against the hardwood floor. The entire arena let out an audible gasp seeing the league's marquee draw crumpled on the floor, and that chilling silence speaks volumes about this entire matchup. This is far bigger than just a single missed defensive whistle during a regular season tilt between two rebuilding franchises trying to climb the standings.
To not screen. Look at this. Like, look at it. What type? You're screening Caitlin! Oh my gosh! She's screening Caitlin instead of Odyssey. Oh my gosh! How do you screen Caitlin? Oh my gosh! She's screening her own teammate instead of screening Odyssey Sims. How do you screen Caitlin? It got to the point where she's hurting Caitlin. She's the reason Caitlin probably fell. Let me watch this. Look at this. AB didn't screen. Odyssey Sims just literally fell into Caitlin Clark. How do you screen Caitlin? Oh my.
That aggressive defensive scheme has fans enraged at their screens, while opposing defenders shrug off fouls, and officials repeatedly let high-contact plays slide. Fever coaches are visibly furious on the sideline, so let us break down this specific knee collision on the slow-motion broadcast monitor right now. This sequence demands rigorous tactical scrutiny from the league office, yet broadcast analysts keep sweeping excessive off-ball contact under the rug. They keep repeating lazy talking points about standard playoff-level physicality and the fast pace of modern pro basketball officiating.
How much is too much when you're guarding Caitlin Clark? First, Paige grabs her arm, the whistle comes late, Clark gets pissed, and Paige basically tells her, calm down. Then later, Odyssey Sims takes Clark down and she lands knee first on the floor. Nah man, Dallas was physical all night. Indiana loses 91-85 and Clark walks out frustrated. Call it tough defense if you want, but if this is normal, what the hell actually counts as...
Clark works tirelessly without the basketball, reading the weak side passing lane and curling tight around the elbow screen to create space for an open jumper. That pick was designed to spring her free on the wing, so Clark stays locked on the ball handler rather than tracking the trailing defender. She is completely dialed in on the timing of the kick-out pass, setting her feet for the rapid catch-and-shoot release that terrifies opposing defenses. Then suddenly, a Dallas defender blitzes through the lane at reckless speed, completely blowing up the action with excessive force before the pass even arrives. Look at how she crowds the landing space and establishes an illegal moving screen without ever setting her feet on the floor.
Screen. She's moving all over the place. Hits her with the shoulder, like always. Look at this. Fouls her, holding her, and fouls the crap out of her. No foul. Look at this. She got fouled the whole game. They didn't call this a foul. Look at this one. Like, her body's all over her. How is that not a foul? Look at this one. Cardosa swipes her once, twice, just tries to grab her. Can you imagine being fouled the entire game? Every time you hit half court, every time you dribble, every time you drive. Look at this. Sheldon clearly has her hand on Caitlin Clark's shoulder when she's shooting it. They even show a replay. It's exactly...
The broadcast replay shows the hit landing straight at knee level with alarming momentum that completely disrupts her lower base. That is the exact kind of violent collision you see on the gridiron when a defensive back cuts down an open field ball carrier. Clark drops directly to the hardwood, clutching her knee joint while in clear distress as the entire arena goes dead quiet. You instantly realize there is zero embellishment here, because no player grabs their knee in real time unless significant structural pain hits.
Herself got called a technical foul because she accidentally ran into a ref. And as you will see from the clip, it was not intentional in the least. Her reaction to getting the whistle is just like all of us. It was so utterly unfair. Watch this.
So clearly was a foul, was not called.
Oh, she didn't even say anything.
Oh my God. I mean, just insane. And they were going to actually kick her out, and then they finally reversed that ruling. But like, this is crazy.
Yeah,
how the refs are acting.
It's an absolute.
Clamping both hands around the knee joint proves the sharp pain was immediate, intense, and deeply concerning for the entire bench. Meanwhile, the defender stumbles backward a couple of steps and throws both hands up, pretending she was the one caught off balance. That theatrical body language after the collision only serves to make the defensive action look far more calculated and intentionally aggressive. Every slow-motion angle exposes that stumble as a deliberate physical recovery right after delivering a punishing hit through the offensive player. She dropped the ball handler to the floor and instantly raised both open palms while turning straight toward the baseline referee. That innocent facial expression directed at the lead official is a textbook veteran defensive tactic executed to evade a flagrant foul review. It is the classic universal gesture meant to signal innocence, even when the hardwood tape catches every detail of the foul. While the video board clearly reveals the hard contact, the medical staff sprints onto the court to evaluate Clark on the hardwood. She remains down for several minutes, and genuine panic instantly spreads across the entire Fever coaching staff and reserve bench. This superstar has demonstrated unbelievable physical toughness throughout her career, constantly playing through heavy contact and never complaining about bumps. She never lingers on the court unless something is seriously hurt, which makes this tense confrontation with Paige so dramatic.
Was that Paige having the audacity to push Caitlin Clark, then putting her hand out and telling Caitlin Clark to calm down?
Some intensity brewing here as Clark taking exception to the bumps. Paige Bueckers grabbing the arm of Clark and Clark flailing the arm.
This is just another example of how girls are getting smoked by Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. The numbers do not lie all across the board. Caitlin is not having her best night tonight, but we still have another half to go. And I will be the first to admit that I think Paige is a baller, the way that she can see the whole court, the way that she can pull up from anywhere on the court. But this was so shicey. There's always been rumors that Paige was kind of jealous of Caitlin Clark, and she admitted it herself that she was was jealous for what's happening with Caitlin Clark. She said that in an interview recently, but I feel like you did not need to put your arm out like that. That is so salty. Both players are built for big moments, but that did not need to happen on the court.
Blaming that violent collision on a simple loss of balance is lazy analysis, even though the live television crew pushed that narrative immediately. That misleading talking point flooded social media instantly, but breaking down the defensive footwork before the whistle reveals the truth. The defender was not reacting to a crossover move, fighting over a high ball screen, or recovering after getting blown by on the drive. She systematically tracked a stationary target, squared her shoulders, adjusted her center of gravity, and lowered her hips right before impact. She drove her entire momentum straight into the planted pivot leg of Clark, mimicking a football safety executing a low-cut tackle on a ball carrier. That is neither incidental contact, nor a defender losing control of her forward momentum while trying to decelerate on the fast break. That calculated body angle was intentionally designed to undercut Clark and compromise her lower base as she prepared to shoot, take her straight to the hardwood. And when you break down the biomechanics of that lower body collision on the replay, the intent is undeniable beyond any shadow of a doubt on the court. If a perimeter defender legitimately wanted to jump the passing lane and disrupt the ball rotation, there are dozens of textbook positional angles to take without diving right into the landing area of a shooter's knee. You can shoot the gap and swipe at the leather. You can shift your lateral slide to cut off the entry pass. You can stay vertical on your pivot foot and absorb the blow through your chest on the defensive stance. You do not drop your center of gravity to chop down a driver. You do not lower your shoulder directly into a ball handler's plant leg. This was not high-level defensive execution. This was a calculated, dangerous physical choice. Paige grabs her jersey on the perimeter, pulls her off balance, and the officials somehow swallow their whistles completely. She hooks her again on the perimeter curl. Caitlin Clark immediately turns to the baseline official, saying she has had both hands all over her all night without a single whistle. Clark is making it known right to the crew chief that the physical hand-checking and jersey clutching are way across the legal line on every screen action. Watch the replay right here as Paige Bueckers locks down on Caitlin Clark's shooting arm. She literally wraps both hands around her forearm in transition, yet the referees refuse to blow the play dead. It completely destroys the flow of the offensive possession, and it makes zero basketball sense on this floor. This was an absolute mugging on the perimeter as Clark tried to turn the corner on the drive. Look closely at the slow-motion isolation tape. Bueckers is physically clamping her arm while Clark is fighting to execute a basic sideline cut, and Bueckers is holding on tight like she is refusing to let her run the offensive set. It looks like a bizarre wrestling match off the ball where Clark is trying to break into the open floor and Bueckers is dragging her back into the paint like an unwanted shopping trip. Paige is literally holding her by the wrist to kill the transition break. It is utterly wild, undisciplined defense that should have been an automatic technical foul. She lunges forward, grabs Caitlin Clark across the torso once more, and crashes hard onto the hardwood. That second grab was not a basketball play at all. She was intentionally trying to take a hard wrap-up foul. That was an intentional tactical foul all day long. And having the broadcast crew brush it off as a simple slip and lost footing in real time is infuriating for anyone who knows defensive footwork and basic basketball rules. It reveals a frustrating double standard across the media coverage, where obvious non-basketball contact against the league's biggest star is instantly excused and rationalized away instead of being called out on the broadcast. Here is the exact breakdown that should infuriate every coach, player, and basketball analyst watching this tape tonight. It goes beyond the reckless swipe. Look at the inexcusable reaction from the crew on the floor immediately afterward. Not a single whistle blew from the baseline or the slot. Not a late whistle, not a delayed whistle. Just total silence from all three officials while the play broke down. Clark is down on the maple, clutching her hyperextended knee in agony. The team trainer rushes out to evaluate the joint stability, while three professional referees standing within 10 feet of the baseline act completely blind. They acted like they were officiating an entirely different sequence in an empty gym. We are talking about the marquee superstar who has completely transformed the television ratings and economic landscape of professional women's basketball. She is the generational playmaker who brought millions of new viewers to watch primetime basketball broadcasts that previously struggled to capture national mainstream sports attention across major networks. She sells out NBA-sized arenas across the entire country, packing buildings that routinely struggled to fill lower bowls during regular season runs. She is the undeniable engine driving every ticket sale in that arena tonight. Yet there she is, grimacing on the hardwood in obvious physical distress. while the high-level officials assigned to protect player safety just look away and let the chaos roll. The complete lack of accountability from the three paid referees in that critical moment is baffling. Now, the dynamic between Caitlin and Paige is fascinating because they share genuine mutual respect and a friendship off the court. They have competed against each other since high school AAU tournaments. But when the game clock is ticking and momentum is on the line, friendship goes out the window in favor of cutthroat competition. Out on the floor, the competitive fire takes over every single matchup. Paige is clearly attempting to burn a tactical foul here to prevent Clark from stepping into a pull-up transition triple from deep range. She purposely clamps Clark's forearm to kill the fast break before Clark can elevate into a shooting motion. But the whistle never sounds to stop the clock. The referee swallows the whistle on clear contact, leaving Caitlin completely furious with the officiating crew. She is not venting at Paige for playing hard physical playoff defense. She is directing her fury at the baseline referee for missing the most obvious intentional wrap-up foul imaginable. She is pointing out that Paige grabbed her arm to stop the play, and the referee acted blind. Paige tries to tell her to stay cool, but Clark fires right back that her shooting arm was yanked in plain sight, and the officiating crew blew a routine call on the floor. Clark is telling the official that defenders are mugging her on every single screen and cut, and if the crew does not blow the whistle soon, this game is going to boil over into an all-out brawl on the court. There were 0 free throw attempts awarded, no trip to the monitor for an upgraded flagrant review, and not even a common defensive foul whistled to log the contact in the box score. The referee simply tossed the ball back into play as if nothing happened, treating the collision like Clark just lost her balance and tripped over her own shoelaces on the wing. The unmistakable evidence that a dangerous play occurred was watching Clark hobble through the next 3 offensive sets, unable to push off her drive or cut laterally with full speed. She was visibly favoring that left knee and altering her entire kinetic shooting mechanics, an alarming red flag that every athletic trainer and scout in the arena caught immediately. But that knee collision was merely the tip of the iceberg during this high-stakes battle, and it was far from the most blatant blown whistle on the floor tonight against Clark. That title belongs to an absurd sequence late in the first half where the officiating crew swallowed their whistles on a textbook intentional foul attempt right near the midcourt logo. With under 10 seconds remaining in the second quarter, Paige Bueckers stepped up toward the perimeter to execute a standard tactical foul to stop the fast break clock before halftime. Clark controlled the rock at the top of the key, Dallas had a foul to give before the bonus, and Bueckers was assigned to commit a quick wrap-up to reset the defensive possession. But executing a tactical foul means taking a clean bump and stepping back, not clamping a player's entire shooting arm and dragging her across the hardwood while precious seconds bleed off the clock. Bueckers latched onto her forearm and held on tight, turning a simple basketball foul into an extended grappling session right under the nose of the lead official on the sideline. Bueckers locked up Clark's left arm without letting go, forcing Clark to violently jerk her body to break the grip because the referee refused to blow the whistle and stop the play. The quality of officiating across these marquee basketball games has hit an absolute rock bottom, showcasing a total failure in enforcing basic contact rules and protecting perimeter shooters. We are seeing the worst, most inconsistent crew decisions across the entire basketball landscape right now, with continuous missed fouls that undermine player safety on national television night after night. Every single basketball fan needs to look at the tape from last night because this entire matchup was a masterclass in missed calls and inexcusable referee blunders from opening tip to final buzzer. Instead of penalizing blatant high contact on the perimeter, the officials repeatedly let dangerous collisions slide, creating a hostile environment on the floor that ruins high-level championship basketball. She takes a shot straight to the face. Caitlin Clark catches contact, while officials dissect a moving screen on the perimeter hardwood. Defenders are reaching in across her entire frame, hacking both arms on the perimeter, absorbing double contact, and then getting clocked, right across the throat, and the whistle stays silent. She gets battered on drive after drive, yet officials only blow it against her. The official hesitates, letting multiple crucial seconds tick away before calling it, while Clark has already fired the rock in pure disgust. She chucks the basketball hard down the floor, watching it buzz uncomfortably tight past Bueckers as she heads toward the locker tunnel. That officiating hesitation was utterly baffling, dragging on so long that both starting fives were practically retreating toward the locker rooms already. They reached the tunnel before the crew confirmed what 10,000 fans inside the arena recognized 3 full seconds earlier on that baseline. Roll the tape back and break down the defensive leverage on that wrap. because a standard intentional foul to give is supposed to be clean. You bump the ball handler, make the wrap, hear the whistle, play stops. The playmaker is supposed to cleanly finish out their physical movement. The defender shows intentional body contact immediately, giving the lead official an easy window to kill the action on the floor instantly. You blow it dead before tempers flare. But this was drawn out. Bueckers clamps down on her arm way beyond standard defensive contact. No referee needs extra film review to blow that whistle. She is not contesting a pull-up jumper or denying an entry pass. She is not denying the passing lane either. The 10-second half-court clock had completely expired, and the first-half momentum was basically dead. The clock was zeroed out. Yet she deliberately restricts Clark from moving her torso, physically pinning her arms on the floor. The entire arena is standing around waiting on a delayed whistle, and right mid-clinch, broadcast cameras zoom right in on the exchange. Cameras catch Bueckers chirping right at Clark, clearly lip-read by everyone on social media telling her to just calm down. Look, she had her back turned completely toward the referee during the whole sequence, completely blind to their floor positioning. How do you know where the zebra is standing when you swing through with a heavy forearm rip-through move? You have no visual on the referee there, none at all. So where is the real tactical explanation for that call? That is the exact explanation handed down on the floor. But was picking up that technical foul really worth the argument? I got rung up with a technical for one remark, after opponents were screaming profanities all 4 quarters without a single warning whistle. That is a terrible blown call by the crew, whistling incidental contact while a player is flying out of bounds with momentum. Her own bench should have stepped in immediately to settle her down after that defensive rotation, because that looks awful on replay. That physical contact occurs on every single possession, and floor officials must show better court awareness during high-leverage late-game sequences. The officiating crew completely failed to read the floor, blowing a massive call. The league office better do the right thing on this review and clear her for Tuesday night action. Right as Clark gets physically wrapped up without consent, during a totally one-sided defensive hold on the perimeter hardwood, Bueckers has the absolute nerve to tell Clark to calm down. And when you slow down the high-definition tape, it is unmistakable. You see the lips move with total dismissive swagger, while Clark is fighting through the contact trying to free her shooting arm. She is pulling her arm loose, and that single frame tells a much bigger story than a standard regular season basketball whistle. It perfectly captures the sheer physical gauntlet Caitlin Clark has endured since entering this professional hardwood league as a rookie. Break down the film and realize how wild that looks, because Bueckers is the defender initiating and extending the physical clinch. She drags out the illegal contact way past the whistle, yet the verbal shot is fired directly at the offensive superstar. Clark is the one locked up by a defender, yet everyone acts like the face of the franchise needs to behave. It is the exact same narrative loop all season long, where she takes hard contact on drives, reacts naturally, and gets criticized. The media spins her emotional competitive response into the lead headline, completely ignoring the flagrant physical shot that triggered the whole confrontation. Remember that phantom technical earlier this year when she barely brushed an official while running back in transition defense? The league office had to rescind that technical after video review proved the transition contact was totally incidental and unavoidable. Her agent, Aaron Kane, stated flat out that the WNBA salary structure can never compensate Caitlin Clark for her true economic value. A leading economist at Indiana University, Columbus, published a study showing Clark generated $36 million in direct economic impact. That $36 million boost flooded the city of Indianapolis alone across home games, arena concessions, and local tourism revenue. She drove 27% of the entire WNBA economic revenue this past year across sellout attendance, merchandise, and broadcast ratings. Just imagine one superstar athlete accounting for 27% of a major professional sports league. That financial footprint across the WNBA is unprecedented, and no single athlete on the planet carries more franchise leverage right now. No superstar in basketball history has transformed the economic momentum and cultural power of their league faster than Caitlin Clark has, across the entire league. We saw that violent knee-on-knee collision just minutes into this broadcast, where the booth completely downplayed a reckless tackle as a simple slip. They brushed off dangerous contact as losing balance on the floor. Now history repeats itself with an aggressive arm grab right on the perimeter near the half-court stripe, right before the buzzer, where Bueckers, waving her hand, gets all the broadcast replay attention instead of the blatant defensive jersey tug happening off the ball. Now contrast that let-them-play mentality with the lightning-fast whistles whenever Caitlin Clark initiates the slightest contact while quarterbacking the offense against this physical defense. Earlier in this series, Clark brushed a defender while setting an off-ball screen on the wing, and the official blew the whistle immediately for an illegal pick. Zero hesitation, zero huddle between the crew, and absolutely no patience to let the offensive set develop or determine if an advantage was actually gained. The lead referee raised his fist before the screening motion was even finished, looking primed and ready to tag her with an offensive turnover on the spot. That glaring double standard is exactly what analysts and basketball fans keep screaming about across the country, matchup after matchup throughout this intense season schedule. Whenever Clark creates marginal contact driving through traffic, the crew blows the whistle before she even finishes her gather step toward the paint. Yet whenever defenders hack her across the arms on drives, the officials swallow their whistles and demand a lengthy monitor review before doing anything. Either that or no call comes at all. You have the exact same 3 referees on the hardwood calling 40 minutes of full-court professional basketball, somehow enforcing 2 completely separate rule sets, depending strictly on which player is dishing out the heavy perimeter contact in crunch time. And front office executives downtown have not provided a single clear explanation for why this officiating discrepancy shows up in every single game tape. Clark was even hit with an absurd technical foul for inadvertently brushing against an official in transition, and the slow-motion broadcast replay proves there was zero bad intent. It was completely accidental. Her reaction on the hardwood mirrored what every viewer at home felt: absolute shock and total frustration with that whistle. She did not even utter a word. Yet the crew prepared an immediate ejection from the floor before cooler heads prevailed to overturn that disastrous call. But the mere fact that an experienced referee stared directly at routine incidental contact and decided to assess a technical foul during live play tells you everything. That routine contact occurs dozens of times during fast breaks across every matchup, without a single referee reaching for their whistle to blow play dead. It exposes the hyper-scrutiny and tough defensive climate Clark encounters whenever she steps between the lines. Meanwhile, other marquee perimeter stars around the association have collided much harder with referees during broken plays, knocking them completely off balance, and walked back to the bench without receiving so much as a warning. Fans caught the contradiction immediately on social media, adding fuel to the ongoing debate that has dominated sports talk shows all season long. It proves the theory that defensive intensity allowed against Clark operates under a completely different threshold than the ticky-tack fouls called against her on the defensive end. The officiating crew clearly recognized their blown assignment on the floor, because the massive delay in calling that obvious take foul was impossible to ignore. Tactically, an intentional take foul to stop transition momentum should be blown right away. Every coach in the building knows you want that whistle instantly to protect your defense. The clock situation is obvious for both coaching staffs, and everyone understands the defensive unit has a foul to give before entering the penalty bonus. Instead, the play dragged out so long that Clark already launched the outlet pass, reacted in frustration, and momentum completely shifted before the whistle sounded. Both squads were practically jogging toward the tunnel before the crew finally blew the whistle on a sequence everyone in the building processed instantly. The whole arena saw that foul 3 full seconds before the referee reacted. That is not championship-level officiating on the hardwood. At best, the crew was totally asleep during high-stakes game action. At worst, they hesitated because they feared public backlash for rewarding Caitlin Clark on the offensive end. Then midway through the third quarter, Bueckers picked up a heated technical foul for arguing with the crew after another physical whistle went against her team. That call involved direct contact against Clark on a drive, showing that emotional tempers and tactical pressure were boiling over on both sidelines without referee control. The frustration boiling over on the hardwood was completely earned. This officiating crew completely lost control of the tempo and physical tone of the game. Physical perimeter defense escalated into hard paint collisions, and Clark took the brunt of the punishment before anyone wearing stripes stepped in to manage the flow. When both benches, both head coaches, and 20,000 screaming fans in the arena are furious with the officiating crew by the third quarter, that is not a subtle warning sign. That is definitive proof that the 3-person referee crew lost complete command of this high-stakes hardwood battle. They completely lost control during the first half and never recovered. This bad officiating pattern is not an isolated incident confined to this single broadcast either. Just a few weeks ago, Clark was tagged with a technical foul for incidental contact with an official while merely chasing a fast break loose ball in transition. Her momentum carried her forward with nowhere else to step, and the league front office had to formally rescind that technical foul after reviewing the absurd tape. League officials recognized how indefensible the call looked on film. During that identical stretch of games, you can pull up tape of other guards, crashing chest-to-chest directly into referees on the sideline collisions that were infinitely more violent and completely avoidable in live play. Yet those players walked back to the huddle without receiving so much as a verbal warning from the crew, sparking instant outrage across basketball fan bases. That double standard fuels the ongoing controversy dominating sports media all season regarding the uneven whistle Clark faces when running high pick-and-roll sets. It feels like the rulebook fundamentally changes depending on whether Clark is drawing defensive contact or attempting to fight through off-ball screens. The front office has remained completely silent while analysts speculate that referees struggle to officiate her elite perimeter spacing and lightning-fast three-point release. Her deep shooting range and rapid ability to draw contact creates impossible angles for referees, leading to missed calls that swing momentum every quarter. Critics love to claim she is just flopping and selling contact, but that entire narrative completely shatters the second you roll the slow-motion film and track the brutal physics. Just look at the violent impact her frame has to absorb on baseline drives, punishing hits that would flat-out drop almost any other perimeter ball handler to the hardwood. She is constantly grinding through grueling physical trauma that would send most players straight to the trainer room, and head coach Stephanie White has been forced onto this podium before. White has to step up after these bloodbaths and relentlessly defend her superstar playmaker, but you can hear the sheer, agonizing exhaustion in her voice as this exact scenario repeats. Look, nobody is saying aggressive. Physical basketball does not belong out on the hardwood. Rugged paint battles happen every single quarter, and this has always been a tough, physical league. Absolutely zero analysts expect the officials to blow the whistle on every minor bump or standard hand check on the perimeter. But the real crisis driving everyone crazy is the glaring inconsistency. What drives coaches insane is watching a brutal, uncalled knee clash on one end get totally ignored, only for the crew to whistle a soft, phantom offensive moving screen just seconds later. It makes no sense when an obvious 3-second jersey grab on a pick and roll gets completely swallowed while an identical off-ball brush at the other end is blown dead on the spot. Fever fans are not demanding superstar privilege or phantom calls. They are just begging the officiating crew for basic baseline parity and one single standard on both ends of the floor. But night after night, that consistent standard is nowhere to be found, completely destroying offensive momentum and putting Caitlin Clark in direct physical jeopardy on every drive. Stephanie White has delivered sharp variations of this exact post-game press conference all year, deliberately choosing measured phrases so she can avoid drawing massive league fines while pleading for fairness. She keeps framing it as a broad, systemic issue about basic refereeing consistency rather than attacking individual crews. But this relentless officiating breakdown keeps forcing the topic right back into the spotlight. She has publicly slammed these missed calls as utterly egregious and totally disrespectful, openly demanding to know why the league premier gate attraction is getting hammered without basic whistle protection. Clark is enduring blatant, unnecessary cheap shots across all 4 quarters with zero protection from the referees assigned to manage game safety, and White is entirely right to call it out. Yet as bad as the officiating has been, there is an even more alarming, deeply frustrating tactical breakdown unfolding right now within the Indiana Fever-owned half-court offensive sets. It centers squarely on franchise center Aliyah Boston, the high-profile big who is tasked with anchoring the interior, punishing drop coverage, and setting solid brick wall screens. But if you break down the tactical game tape from this matchup, you will spot a glaring breakdown in execution that has the entire basketball world and fan base totally baffled. Boston is straight up refusing to set solid contact screens. Or even worse, she is actively setting blindside picks on Caitlin Clark instead of sealing off the primary on-ball perimeter defender. Roll the tape right here. Boston completely misses Odyssey Sims and literally sets a blind seal on Caitlin, which makes you wonder how an elite big ever screens her own point guard. She is directly obstructing Caitlin instead of blowing up the chase from Odyssey Sims, completely collapsing the spacing and directly triggering the collision that sent her star point guard crashing down. That failed screen was the direct reason Caitlin hit the deck hard, and analysts have spent all year questioning whether Boston is bringing the right motor to this high-octane offensive system. Frustrated viewers are openly labeling her one of the most overpaid and sluggish interior players in the game, slamming her for failing to body defenders or protect her franchise point guard. When you study the film frame by frame, it is impossible to defend Boston's lack of physicality, especially while Caitlin is getting grabbed, hammered on drives, and thrown to the hardwood. Your franchise point guard is absorbing heavy contact on every single pick-and-roll switch, and her starting center is wandering out around the arc-setting screens on the wrong teammate. That glaring lack of focus has pushed the fanbase past the boiling point, sparking intense post-game debates over Boston's sluggish footwork, weak screens, and complete absence of rim-running urgency. It looks like pure apathy on the floor, watching your star guard take relentless punishment while the front court provides zero physical deterrence, zero clean seals, and zero offensive pocket space. That repeated lack of synergy on the court has naturally fueled intense speculation regarding underlying locker room friction. And while unconfirmed, these locker room chemistry rumors refuse to go away. Insiders and fans took notice when Boston recently bypassed Clark during a high-profile MVP discussion, highlighting other league stars instead, a move many viewed as a direct, passive-aggressive snub. Leaving your own transcendent teammate out of that national conversation looked completely calculated, and fans immediately lit up social media, calling the move straight-up disrespectful and petty. Whether there is genuine personal hostility brewing in that Indiana locker room, or simply misaligned chemistry, the public optics and on-court execution look completely broken right now. When you stack that glaring lack of teammate synergy on top of the non-existent whistle from the officiating crews, a deeply disturbing narrative takes shape on the hardwood. You are witnessing a generational talent carrying the massive financial and competitive weight of an entire franchise and league completely on her own back, without any real interior help. Those whispers of internal jealousy and subtle resentment have grown deafening as Caitlin Clark's star power has exploded into an absolute mainstream sports and cultural phenomenon. While nobody on the outside can truly know the private locker room dynamic, the hardwood film does not lie. It shows a franchise superstar completely abandoned on an island. Boston is commanding a major salary paying over $78,000 this season, so the expectation is dominant two-way play, not getting thoroughly outworked on the glass by Jessica Shepard. You cannot be an anchor center getting bullied in the paint by Jessica Shepard while simultaneously blowing basic offensive spacing and screening your own lead playmaker on the perimeter. While some of the online vitriol aimed at Boston crosses into toxic territory, the pure basketball breakdown is impossible to dispute when you look at the offensive possession efficiency. Caitlin Clark desperately needs an elite physical role man who sets punishing screens, seals defenders to create driving lanes, and establishes real interior deterrence against opposing physical traps. Right now, she has none of that, which exposes a massive structural problem that the front office and league leadership continue to sweep under the rug during this historic ratings boom. Because this goes way beyond basic half-court execution, it strikes right at the executive suites, television contracts, and the front office leadership running the entire league. Make no mistake about it, Caitlin Clark is the undisputed, singular economic engine that has sent national broadcast ratings and arena turnstile numbers into the absolute stratosphere this entire campaign. Every single opposing building she visits packs the house with record-setting sellouts, generating unprecedented gate revenue and turning routine regular season games into must-see primetime events. Every major television network is fighting to broadcast her matchups. Every arena retail store places her number 22 jersey front and center, and social media feeds are dominated by her highlights. Every sports broadcast package revolves around her signature logo, threes, and dazzling transition passing wizardry, completely revolutionizing how modern basketball offenses look and operate in space. In fact, leading economic researchers at Indiana University Columbus confirmed that Clark generated over $36 million in direct economic revenue for the city of Indianapolis alone. She drives almost 27% of the entire WNBA economic machine, single-handedly juicing ticket revenue, arena gates, and nationwide market demand. We are talking merchandise sales, packed arenas, and record broadcast ratings. One superstar generating 27% of league revenue is unprecedented. No individual athlete in modern sports history tilts the floor quite like Caitlin Clark does for women's basketball. Not even LeBron James in the NBA. Not Cristiano Ronaldo in global soccer, and not Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. Her sheer impact metrics on hardwood viewership are completely unprecedented. Yet night after night, she takes hard collisions off high ball screens, clutches a bruised knee, and gets wrapped up on perimeter cuts without a call. When referees swallow their whistles on full-court defensive pressure, that creates an immediate, severe injury risk for the franchise talent carrying the sport. If league executives genuinely care about safeguarding their biggest box office draw, the officiating crews must stop lagging behind blatant physical contact. Every single basketball fan watching at home spots the illegal hit instantly on the first replay, while the floor referees completely miss the sequence. It should never require a viral video and social media outrage for front office executives to review an obvious knee-on-knee collision on the floor. A head coach should not have to burn a challenge or file a formal complaint over violent perimeter contact that any casual fan spots in real time. Her agent, Erin Kane, made it clear that the front office can never truly pay Caitlin Clark her market value under the current collective bargaining agreement. Under the current hard salary cap, it is mathematically impossible to compensate her true worth to the business side of professional women's basketball. Look at the balance sheet and the economic data. The agent is entirely correct about this glaring compensation gap across the modern sports landscape. Clark takes home just over $78,000 for the 2025 season, a tiny fraction of the hundreds of millions she generates. She generates almost a third of total league cash flow, broadcasting revenue, and arena gate receipts through pure individual star power. The massive disparity between her base salary and the corporate revenue she creates on the hardwood is almost impossible for analysts to fathom. That financial gap makes the lack of whistle protection on physical ball pressure and blindside screens feel downright offensive to viewers everywhere. League executives love cashing massive television rights checks and watching primetime ratings explode, but they refuse to step in on baseline physical fouls. When defensive guards initiate heavy contact on the perimeter, the whistle stays buried in the official's pocket on nearly every single possession. Referees look terrified of looking biased, so they overcorrect by letting opposing defenders play overly rough, physical playoff-style defense against her. That bad whistle dynamic leaves her taking constant physical punishment without earning standard shooting fouls or trips to the charity stripe. The basketball world is growing convinced that league leadership is either completely blind or simply unwilling to clean up the whistle inconsistency. It is an exhausting cycle that has played out across the entire schedule, and the tension on the hardwood is finally hitting a boiling point. It is the same script every game night. Clark absorbs a hard foul, gets back on defense, and analysts spend hours debating the defensive physicality. Then the next matchup tips off. Defenders deliver the exact same excessive hits, and the endless talking head debate resets like nothing happened before. Let us break down the tape on this specific game, because it serves as the ultimate blueprint of how officiating fails elite playmakers this year. It started with a dangerous missed call on a knee collision on a high screen that every fan at home immediately recognized on the slow-motion feed. Next came an extended defensive arm grab on a baseline cut where the referee took 3 extra seconds just to acknowledge the illegal contact. By the time the whistle blew, the physical damage and emotional frustration on the floor had already completely disrupted the offensive flow of the game. Just 1 quarter later, the exact same defender picked up a technical foul, proving that the mounting physical tension on the hardwood was totally justified. The frustration boiling over on the floor was completely real and directly caused by referees losing control of the defensive tempo and physical play. Defensive guards are visibly overwhelmed by the extreme pace, transition speed, and high-stakes spotlight that follow her into every sold-out arena. Every road arena is packed to the upper rafters, exclusively to watch her shoot and distribute, yet crews officiate her under a bizarre double standard. The floor officials appear to be using a totally different rulebook with an absurdly high threshold for blowing the whistle on shooting contact. That lack of basic officiating consistency is brutal to watch, and the defensive hacking has only intensified as the postseason approaches. Regardless of defensive intent, the result on the floor never changes. Clark takes harder hits than any other point guard in professional basketball today. The whistle arrives late or never comes at all, and television talk shows dishonestly turn the narrative into her emotional on-court reaction instead. She carries the burden of growing the entire sport as its primary gate attraction, yet she cannot even get standard whistle protection around the arc. No franchise superstar should have to sprint through transition worrying about defenders taking out their knees on dirty, uncontrolled closeouts. Protecting elite athletes on the hardwood is the absolute baseline expectation for any professional sports league trying to build long-term value. This ongoing officiating breakdown is a catastrophic leadership failure, an officiating disaster, and an embarrassment for executive league management. The excuses from the front office are officially dead. The video evidence is overwhelming. The physical pattern is obvious, and the danger is clear. What happens next? That is the multi-million-dollar question that nobody in the head league office has the backbone to answer on the record. How many more dangerous floor collisions and bruised knees do we have to watch before the league orders its officiating crews to make standard calls? How many more illegal arm wraps, blindside hits, and non-basketball plays will go unpunished before a major injury ruins the entire sport forever? Uncalled before Commissioner Headquarters realizes their marquee box office draw is taking unprotected hits across the perimeter? Die-hard basketball fans have already rendered their verdict, made their definitive choice. They dissect the hardwood every night, freezing high-contact screen footage where blatant defensive over-aggression gets excused as incidental contact, or simple off-balance momentum. Fans are packing 20,000-seat arenas, shattering jersey sales, and driving record broadcast ratings across every major network. But the audience is rapidly growing exhausted. They are totally burned out from watching this exact same physical beatdown unfold every single quarter, watching their franchise playmaker get relentlessly hammered off the ball with zero whistles. They are fed up with weak explanations, gaslighting commentary, and the league refusing to admit that a massive officiating crisis exists right in front of us. The real debate is not whether front office leadership will intervene, but how quickly they will enforce hard whistle standards, and what concrete officiating adjustments will actually take place. Until the league mandates tighter whistle control, these exact high-impact collisions will continue blowing up social media feeds for the exact same defensive oversteps. We are going to see angry fan hashtags dominating timelines while fiery roundtable panels scream over defensive schemes on every national sports talk show, daily broadcasts. That exact same boiling frustration is going to spill into post-game media rooms, leaving coaches and beat writers repeatedly asking the identical unanswered tactical question while Caitlin Clark keeps scraping herself up off the hardwood and operating the offense, absorbing punishing contact because she is a pure competitor. That fierce toughness defines her game. Clark will never whine to the referees or search for easy outs. Instead, she will just keep commanding the backcourt as the premier playmaker on the court in every single matchup, no matter how blind the officiating crew chooses to be on physical hand checks. But that relentless grit does not mean analysts and fans must sit here and act like the game is cleanly called. Nobody should tolerate this broken status quo on the hardwood, because the front office faces a massive franchise-altering crossroad. They must either aggressively protect their top box office superstar, the generational talent who has completely revolutionized the national profile of women's professional hoops, or continue looking the other way, while millions of viewers watch dangerous non-calls happen in real time on baseline drives. Letting this unchecked physical punishment continue is going to cost the league infinitely more in lost momentum down the stretch. Look directly at the hard analytics, track the explosive economic footprint, and measure the historic television viewership numbers paired with unprecedented sellout arena figures, along with skyrocketing jersey revenue, and the executive verdict becomes glaringly clear. Clark is not just another starting guard, she is a global sports phenomenon. She is the clear driving force, putting the WNBA on national magazine covers and dominating everyday morning sports chatter across the entire country. She is the direct catalyst, inspiring millions of young hoopers to beg for new basketballs while bringing millions of casual households into live game broadcasts they never previously followed in past seasons. Her generational gravity gives this organization a booming economic future unlike anything we have ever seen in modern sports. If leadership wants to sustain that surge and maximize this unprecedented wave of basketball growth while shielding the massive financial value Clark brings every night, they must act immediately. That protection has to show up directly between the baselines through sharp officiating mechanics, absolute referee accountability, and disciplined foul enforcement. It demands an undeniable league-wide realization that whistle criteria on physical bumps must apply evenly to Clark, just like every other elite guard on the floor. No star whistles, no defensive free passes, just pure rulebook consistency. That equal standard is all analysts demand and all Clark earned. That dead silence following that brutal knee-to-knee perimeter clash was not just another routine missed foul call. It exposed an entire sports organization struggling to manage the spotlight of its brightest star. It spotlighted floor referees terrified of blowing the whistle correctly, paralyzed by the fear that opposing coaches and critics might accuse them of delivering superstar favoritism. That hesitation reflects an outdated hardwood mentality that fails to grasp that keeping your premier athlete safe on hard screens is not preferential treatment at all. It is basic competitive common sense. Until league leadership rewires that officiating culture and directly mandates strict penalties for dangerous physical play, We will be stuck debating these controversial missed whistles after every single matchup on the schedule. Viewers will continue sharing ugly collision replays across the internet while everyone questions how many punishing floor impacts Clark must endure before the league takes action. Before officials finally protect the game's biggest draw. How league headquarters resolves this glaring officiating failure will fundamentally define the future of the sport and shape its commercial ceiling for decades to come. Because right now, the shot clock is running out fast.